Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's Speedify Live. I'm Alex. This is Will.
Yeah.
We are some of the people who make Speedify. Let me scoot a little closer to you here. And we are here to answer your questions. If you have any questions, you take the old keyboard and you type them in the comments, and we will answer. And it's going to be super awesome. Before we go too much farther, why don't you, like, follow, subscribe, whatever, wherever you're watching. Just probably Twitch or YouTube. We would appreciate it. So,
what are we talking about today?
Probably
Starlink?
satellite and Starlink stuff. I guess. Did you read about the new engine Starlink has for their SpaceX designed for their rockets?
No, tell me about it.
Each rocket engine is 1 ton lighter.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. 10% more thrust. And they sorted out all the fluid dynamics around the fuel pumps so they can turn all of them on at the same time. I guess the SpaceX rockets had a problem before that you could only turn on a couple at a time or they would stall out because the fuel pumps couldn't get enough fuel to all the engines at once. So you had to start a couple and then start a couple and then start a couple. Apparently, you can just turn on all the rockets at full thrust now. So this is for the new Starship 3. Yeah.
And is that what's bringing Starlinks into space?
That's what's going to start. I think they are preparing for their first test launch.
And it's reusable mostly?
And it is reusable.
Completely? Every component of it's reusable?
It is apparently completely reusable.
Cool.
Yeah, there used to be the engine and then all the electronics and stuff above it. And now all the electronics have been so shrunken and hidden that, the head of one of the European launch companies told them to, stop lying and posting photos of half of your rocket engine. And Elon Musk replied, lol, because apparently that's the whole, they shrank it so much that the competitors, thought they were liars. So the big rockets, the ones that launched Starship, have 42, I believe, thrusters on it.
That's a good number.
Each of which are a ton lighter.
Suspicious number, though.
Yeah, it is a suspicious number. Will, why are you so late? I'm sitting here all alone.
John, yeah.
Well, we realized that this computer wasn't plugged into the Starlink anymore, so we ran around for a couple of minutes plugging and unplugging stuff to get it back. So, Speedify, our amazing software for combining internet connections. And you'll see that if I click on Starlink, we've added all the Starlink control stuff now, right? We're pulling all the stats from the API. So you can see what version of hardware and software, and is it pointing the right way, and is it roaming? And then we've got the whole alignment wizard where you can see the obstructions. You got a good path pointing the sky. You see which direction is pointing. This is a compass. So we're pointing to the northeast, and the longer the line is, the more tilted your dish is. Our dish is pointing off to the northeast. And you see a little green circle around it because that is the direction that Starlink says our dish should be pointed, and we're doing it. Following directions here. And there's the Starlink control. So all this stuff just came in 16.7. All kinds of graphs and stats and stuff about your Starlink. I mean, of course, it still works great with everything, but real fun toys. A bunch of other things showed up in 16.7. Why don't we talk about them for a second? I tend to think this is a minor thing, but it is the thing you guys asked for the most. Color. In addition to our list of tasteful colors, we now have a custom color picker. And, you can make your internet connections any color you want. And it just works. So that is probably our single most requested feature, and we finally implemented it. When in doubt, I suggest sticking to the tasteful colors we supplied, rather. And Wow. We are apparently low on disk space here, which seems like a terrifying thing to be hearing during your live stream.
Whatever. Keep
Yeah.
rolling. It's fine.
We're getting error messages popping up. I'm just going to go ahead while we're live streaming, delete everything in the download folder. Hopefully it's not important. But running out of disk during a live stream sounds terrible. So here we go. Nice. Empty the trash. Are you sure you want to empty the items in the trash during your live stream? Yes. All right.
So what makes it possible for us to get a hold? Well, Ryan's coming in, I think.
Ryan's coming in. We got our producer here. Yeah, and so that screen turned off on us. Oh my gosh, we have a lot of video stored on this hard drive. So move to trash, empty trash. All right. We now have tens of gigs of space. So fun stuff. Although, do you know how to turn the screen back on? Good job, Ryan. All right. All right. It's exciting. You guys don't get to see Ryan very much anymore. He hides in the back. All right. What happened to that window? It went on that screen. All right. We're almost back, guys and gals.
So what just happened here was we got some sort of disk space warning in Elgato where we control, I guess, some part of this live.
A bunch of stuff just closed on our computer here. So anyway. All right. So John's asking, should I use my iPhone via tethering or pair and share? What would give me the best bonding solution?
Tethering.
Tethering. Anytime you have a chance, and it reminds me, to in fact replace wireless with a good old-fashioned high-speed cable, you should do that. No, I don't want to do a software upgrade now. Good Lord. So I just added to Speedify this iPhone, which is on AT&T via USB-C cable. So USB-C, good, right? We can typically get gigabits through one of these things. So full speed of cellular. Now, as you saw, I have 3 connections. And yeah. Did you find the window? I did find the window. Is Ryan the main engineer on Speedify? No, Ryan is the main engineer on our videos. He does, there are bits of Ryan's work in Speedify, but he spends more of his time on the videos and the website and things like that. All right. So what else? Man, let's go back to this one more time. The other thing, and this is really the previous release, but the releases are coming out so fast, I don't expect you guys to keep track of it. Optimized for desktop. Now we have this whole system of cards. If you make, beginning this year, right, everything would just stretch wider and wider. You'd have these ridiculously wide sections. Now it goes to multiple columns. You got 2 columns of your adapters. You have all these cards. So you see, you can put, all the graphs out. So all of this is available. Sorry, I can't see just for physical reasons here. If you go down, there's dashboard near the bottom. And boop. So you can just drag things around, right? I just move the network graph up, and now there it is. So you can totally arrange, your desktop now to get your dashboard to get the experience you want in Speedify.
There was even some discussion of whether we want the primary graph at all now that we have all this other stuff.
Yes, and I could not figure out a sensible way to make it go away and not lose. I spent a lot of time on even more concepts. So one thing I've been thinking about, I think I talked to you a little bit about this. I think that the Speedify core engine of C++, that's moving your packets and bonding your internet connections, that's, C++ code that has to be as reliable as, what goes in a rocket ship. We have to think like, if we had a bug here, someone would die. Even if they won't, right?
That's a good way to think about it.
Right? And so that's got to be rock solid. But when it comes to user interface, I think we should have a totally different attitude. I think it should be go, 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 try stuff. And if it's a bad idea, rip it out. So you guys may not have noticed, pair and share, we've got this cool code where your phones can find each other and share their cellular back and forth wirelessly. We used to have a thing where they could connect to each other with QR codes. I ripped it all out. Turned out we could just show a list of all the phones and you could click one. It was actually much, much easier than a QR code. So I quietly, in, was it 16.7, I just deleted all the QR code stuff. And not one person has mentioned it in support or whatever. Now I'm sure you'll all email in and say, I loved that QR code, but you didn't even notice when I took it away. I think we just have to be better about doing more stuff in the user interface. And if it doesn't work, rip it out.
Yeah.
Just tear it out. It's fine.
Where's Morocco? You mean Morocco? I don't know.
I go next month to Morocco. Yeah, it must be Morocco. I also work online with Teams. I heard Wi-Fi is bad in the hotel.
Yeah, I mean, you can get a second internet connection. If there's good cellular infrastructure where you're at, then it's usually pretty cheap to get at least a maybe 3G or 4G modem, a USB modem, and put a SIM card in there. And then you won't rely exclusively on the hotel Wi-Fi. Especially if they're going to rate limit you or make you pay exorbitant fees for that or something. There's also Starlink, if you can carry around a Starlink with you, or
Starlink Mini.
Yep.
But yeah, make sure you have a paid account before you go to Morocco. There are too many free users. There's kind of issues in Morocco, so make sure you're on a paid account so you can get to our premium servers.
Yeah, the premium servers are way better than the free servers. They are faster, we dedicate more resources to them. There are more of them. There are less issues on them since there are less people trying to mess with our network and the rest of the internet. Yeah, I mean, you're in good company.
And I'm also saying buy before you get there. We have so much credit card fraud from Morocco for whatever reason. If you're going to need to buy it before you get there.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of problems. All right. Will, would you trust the reliability of Speedify in a do or die scenario?
I mean, if it's between two, there's no other solution. I don't know. There's no other answer. Then yeah, I don't know what else you would. Yeah, of course.
Are premium servers faster than the normal servers or just less crowded?
They're better in every single way. They're better in every dimension. They're better. The free servers are hosting a lot of other users, so there's more competition for the resources on the server. They're prone to more fraud, so they get, messed with by our hosting providers more often. They are slower, and well, I mean, in every way, you should be, I mean, if you're paying for the product, you're going to get a better product. The free version is a demo version, to see what we're about. You can bond some stuff, but if you want to rely on it and lean on our services, you got to pay for it. Yeah. Will, is that a fact? Yeah, that's a fact.
All right. So, Will, have you ever had a Starlink outage at the worst possible moment?
No, not at the worst moment. In fact, I pray for Starlink outages because it lets us test our software.
Yeah, that's right. We are in this backwards
I'm happy
position.
when they mess up. We try to mess them up. We would go up under the roof and we tip them over and we put a bunch of crap over them and see how we respond to it.
So we've got some stats, right? And Starlink works for our users a little over 99% of the time, which
is not great
For
when
a
you want
second,
to.
sound to me sound like, oh, 99% of the time. That's pretty much all the time. Like, no, that's days a year it doesn't work,
Yeah,
right?
imagine if imagine if this stream was 99.9% good. Then, you've got, a little bit of time where like stuff is cutting out and you can't hear people, or like messages don't come through and things need to retransmit and there's hiccups in the end. It's not a good experience when you remember that small percent. It's not like you don't see that
Right.
little bit.
You sure do. And over the course of a year,
It adds
it
up.
can turn days. So it turns out that if you go to Starlink and say, I am an enterprise and I am willing to pay extra for reliability,
An SLA.
and you ask for an SLA, a service level agreement, the highest you can get from them is 99.9%.
3 nines.
3 nines, right? They'll willing to give you a guarantee that it'll work 99.9% of the time.
Better than GitHub, but not great.
Which means 8 hours and 46 minutes a year of downtime. And they'll tell you they did a great job.
So the
right? I mean, it's wireless. I'm not blasting them.
So you need to combine it with another connection to get that higher reliability.
Yeah.
Ideally with, some other emerging satellite technology, maybe another Starlink dish, depending on the kind of failures that they have, or a cellular modem, or some reliable Ethernet connection.
That story, the Navy in California a couple months ago.
The drones were swimming with the fishes.
They had 24, water drones. What are they? UUVs? Is that what they're called?
I don't know.
USV, unmanned surface vehicles.
Okay.
Boats, robot boats. And they were testing 24 of them off the coast of California, and then Starlink went out. And all the robot boats just stopped and sat there. And it's like, guys, this has to be one of several choices if you're going to use it in a mission critical situation, right? I mean, it's okay to use Starlink, but when the Starlink stops working, you have to be able to go to radio. You have to use lasers. You have to have smarts on the boats. They don't just stop. Because it's very easy for an enemy to block Starlink. And it's very easy for like weird things to happen. Like rain.
Yeah. So it turns out that Starlinks are operating on a frequency that is deeply affected by the rain, just like people.
So how much does rain actually affect?
Looks like roughly 50%. Yeah,
that's what they're saying.
Lower speeds.
The uploads drop by 52% when it's raining.
Oh, just the uploads.
The downloads, there was a peer-reviewed study. They said that the downloads were slowed 35%. The uploads were slowed down 52%. But the thing is, the downloads are 200-300 megabits. The uploads are like 30 or 50 megabits. Losing half of 50 megabits, I mean, you can say it's only 25 megabits, right? You lost 100 megabits on your download, but really, that's brutal. That's brutal, right? Taking you to very slow speeds at that point.
So the Ka band is like
the gigahertz.
Okay.
Up in the, is that 8 gigahertz?
It's
something like
about that.
We're in that. It's way above the Wi-Fi, right? We're talking 8, 10. I'm blanking on K versus KU.
So it's easily obstructed.
It's easily obstructed. This is stuff that, kind of slightly exaggeration, doesn't get through a leaf.
Which is
close to
matters less if you're looking up at the sky, but
that's why you have to get a clear view of the sky, right?
But you got to get a clear view of the sky. Yeah. And we've got obstruction maps on a per dish basis too. So if you have multiple Starlinks out there, you can see the obstruction map for each of them.
Yeah. And you saw that Starlink is lowering the satellites.
No. Why would they do that?
So their satellites right now are at 550 kilometers up, and they're lowering them to 480 kilometers. And they actually have permission to put some all the way down at 360 kilometers. So, that's 10% closer to the surface of the Earth, which lowers your latency by 10%, right? Up and down, whatever. Which turns out to not be much. It's like half a millisecond, maybe, they're going to cut off their latency. But signal strength is based on, 1 over the square of the distance. So by bringing it about 10% closer, they're actually boosting their power like 20%. And if you've seen the what kind of speeds digital radios can get based on power levels, you realize like boosting the power 20% sometimes can double the speed, right?
Mm.
Right, lets you go to much more sensitive encodings and stuff. That can be a huge difference.
So does Starlink have ground stations?
Yes, the way Starlink works, the default is it really is just a single hop. You shoot up to the satellite that bounces the signal right back down to a ground station near you. This is why there are areas that Starlink has support and will sell you consumer dishes, and there are areas they don't have support yet, because you're bouncing down to a base station within something like 150 miles of you, right? Most of the time. Now they have other options. The Starlinks now have laser communications between each other. So if you're in the middle of the ocean, this is why maritime time costs more, right? Maritime data. You're shooting up to a satellite who's then lasering over to another satellite that's close enough to the ground to beam your data down. So where we talk about like how low the latency is on a Starlink, it's like 20 milliseconds. It's almost as good as just plugging into the Comcast. That's not true in the middle of the ocean, right? When you're in the middle of the ocean, there start being more hops and more distance, and packets go further, and things start slowing down. But oh my God, you're in the middle of the ocean, you have internet. Once again, not slamming them.
So lasers between Starlinks are just like fiber optics without the fiber.
Correct. That is exactly right. And in fact, Starlink is now selling as a product. They call it the mini laser terminal.
What's that?
It is a box of electronics with the laser and the sensor that you can install in your satellite so that your satellite can connect to the Starlink satellites, potentially from above, and hook into this network and get a couple hundred megabits of internet to your spaceship because it can laser into the network. As far as I know, there's one satellite company, Muon, who's using it so far, but apparently works for them.
That's pretty cool.
And the Starship, the SpaceX giant rocket that they say will take us to Mars, although maybe now it's just the moon, that uses it as well. So it works. So other spaceships can connect to the Starlink, not using the radio, but using lasers, and it's a product that they're selling. The mini laser terminal from Starlink. And it is pretty crazy. I mean, yeah, so we talked about obviously there's heavy rain, then there's solar storms, right? Back in 2022, there's one of these giant solar storms, right? There was a huge, explosion on the surface of the sun. And when the waves hit, it took out 38 brand new Starlink satellites.
So what are solar storms? Is that like the sun has this huge electromagnetic field? And
yes, and what ends out coming towards us is charged particles. There's a little burst of radiation, but that isn't the actual problem. It's either protons or electrons at super high speed come slamming into the atmosphere.
Which is kind of the effect of like an EMP?
Well, that's not what took out the satellites.
What
took out the satellites is that when they hit the surface of the atmosphere expanded.
What?
I'm not kidding. I'm not making this up. The Earth's atmosphere, when hit with all these electrons, expanded.
Okay.
And the air came up until the satellites had more drag.
Oh dear.
And it slowed them down. And when you're in orbit,
then you fall to the
you're falling at the Earth, but you're going so fast you keep missing it. So if anything slows you down, you fall out of space. Oh, wow. And that's what happened. The atmosphere expands when the solar storm hits it. It's not, the EMP or whatever.
So these are examples of Starlink outages.
Yeah. And then, of course, there are going to be ground station issues. All right. What is the fastest internet service available on the Speedify server with the highest traffic? I mean, what is the speed you can pay for the whole Speedify?
So you can get
You get
a
dedicated.
self-hosted server or a dedicated server. And at that point, you're going to get a gigabit or more. If it's a self-hosted server, it's whatever your infrastructure is capable of. I mean, you manage the whole thing. It could also be very close to you. I mean, you could host it on, your home lab or some AWS cluster you own, anything you want.
Yeah.
It is the speed of the fastest link for a self-hosted server.
So yeah, think of the Navy, right? Then 24 ships in August 25 going offline, the robot boats just floating there. Because you need redundancy, you need backup, right?
Yeah, I don't understand how they could have messed up that severely.
I mean, I
Although
think it was
it
a
does,
test. They weren't going to war, right? I mean, these were boats operating off the coast of
Sure, it was a
California.
test, but it was with real hardware, and they have a real deal with Starlink, and Starlink does not seem to want to admit that one dish is sufficient for the kinds of things that they want to be.
Yeah.
The markets that they want to be entering with the guy. I mean, yeah. I
So
mean, you wouldn't go out and, I don't know. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense to me that they would willingly enter like a single point of failure on some incredibly expensive. I mean, how much do you think these little robot boats even cost? I mean, you're putting that out into the middle of the ocean. I mean,
So I don't know how
$1 million each, maybe.
Yeah,
I don't know.
that's a good guess. I mean, there are small ones that are only hundreds of thousands of dollars, and there are bigger ones that run way into the millions. And these things
Sure. So
aren't in high production. So
pay
they
$100,000 for a machine, and you give it you give it one internet link. That's it. That's all we could fit on there. It was $100,000. Absolutely not.
Or it's got to be smart enough that when it loses the link, no big deal. We keep doing the mission, right?
I'm sure it's not.
No,
Sure, that's why it needs the internet anyway.
It wouldn't hit the newspaper like all these dumb Navy boats just floating there needing to be rescued.
Dumber than a Roomba.
Dumber than a Roomba, yeah. So I mean, the Navy had already, their safety people had flagged it, right? There was a report saying like this is a really dangerous thing to do. But they did it. Yeah, and there was, I guess it was it was earlier this year. There was a 2.5-hour outage, right?
I don't remember.
Yeah, I think there was. But I gotta be honest, it's not like some of the big wired ISPs, Verizon and stuff. Verizon has more outages than you would expect. I still think of them as, Ma Bell, reliable and stuff, but
what can you do? I mean, things happen. It's not, they don't need to be perfect. There are other options, putting 1 and 2 together. Every phone in the world has Wi-Fi and cellular. It's not that hard to get through a day with, a variety of providers.
Oh, what's going on? Looking over in Speedify, we're seeing blinks of yellow. Speedify thinks something is up. It's kind of redundant. Let's see. Yeah, a bunch of loss. How much connection is that?
Well,
Starlink.
Starlink, yeah. Why don't you change the color on that to make it more visible?
I'm also going to put secondary. All right. Can you see?
Yeah.
the angle of the screen, I actually can't see. Camera in the way. All right. There we go. Nice blue for Starlink. Yeah, Starlink. So bumped it down to secondary. So just priorities in Speedify. Turns out a couple people have been confused by this recently. The one thing Speedify we try to figure out all this latency and loss and all this stuff automatically to make smart decisions for you. The one thing Speedify cannot figure out is how much you care about the cost of an internet connection. So that's a setting that's called priority. So always means use it all you want. Don't care, right? So my Comcast cable modem, if I need to go on the internet, use it. It's cool. Secondary means it's a little more expensive. So it's cool to use it for a speed boost. It's cool to use it to keep me online. But honestly, if I'm just doing a little bit of internet and there's a primary connection that's working, I prefer you use that. So typically on your iPhone, we'll set your Wi-Fi to primary. We'll set your secondary, your cellular to secondary. So, if you're only doing a little bit and the Wi-Fi's working, we just do it on the Wi-Fi. And if you start doing a lot of stuff, then we'll kick in and use cellular and Wi-Fi at the same time to give you that awesome bonding that you love. And then the third is backup. And backup means this connection's pretty expensive and I prefer you not use it. So Speedify will basically only use it to keep you online and protect you from disasters. So that is that. All right.
By cost, we mean monetary cost.
Actually, it could be other things. It could be battery, right?
Could be,
right?
Yeah.
Maybe you have unlimited cellular, but you don't like the fact that cellular uses 3 times as much battery per bit sent as Wi-Fi, and you're trying to save your battery. So use less cellular because cellular uses a lot more power. But usually it's money. So for self-hosted server, I have 3 locations with 5 gigabits fiber. So would you pay per location if I'm just wanting redundancy? If one drops, the other takes over.
It's not quite. So the self-hosted server, we assume, the server we assume has a good link to the internet. That's what we want to get to. And then you bond on the client devices your unreliable internet connections.
Right. You pay per server. So, yeah, I don't know. Is it just one location would be the server? Or are you saying you want 3 servers? And the price of the server varies widely. There's a fairly inexpensive plan for that lets you have up to 5 devices connect to your server. And I bet he's right. I'll talk about that in a second.
The heck is NTN?
What the heck is NTN? Will. All right. So for regular devices, well, let me just finish this. So servers, you pay per server. There's a cheap plan for a server that only 5 devices connect to. There's a more expensive plan for up to 1,000 users on your server. If your device is not a router, you can just pay for 1 Speedify account, and that gives you 5 devices. If it's a router, you have to pay per router. But, final thing, data you use connect to your self-hosted server does not count against the data caps in your Speedify plan. So if you're setting up routers to just connect to your own dedicated server, you can use that cheaper $129 a year plan per router. So it doesn't have to cost a ton of money, right? $300 server that allows 5 devices to connect, and then $129 router licenses. All right. So let's talk about NTN, non-terrestrial networks.
Oh, okay.
Non-terrestrial networks.
That's a good hint.
Yes. So there's a new version of 5G that just came out, right? 5G came out in 2021, and now all the phones have it. But because people like Starlink, but also AST Mobile, also Global Star, are putting cell towers in space, they realize that 5G needs a few modifications to deal with your cell phone tower being 340 kilometers in the air, shooting by at 17,000 miles an hour. So a bunch of changes. The fact that base stations are the ones moving, not you. That they're moving at 17,000 miles an hour, so you're going to have Doppler effects, which you don't get, even in a car on the ground. Well, you don't get enough to worry about. So all these weird things, they came out in a new version of 5G NTN for satellites. So the new Starlink satellites that they're launching today have this technology. They have bigger antennas. They have 5G base stations with the NTN. Pixel phones from Google have actually supported NTN for more than a year. So if you've gotten the newest model of Pixel, you have a non-terrestrial network phone, apparently. Apple is saying the new one's in September, whatever that is. I've lost track of numbers. The 18? Whatever. Whatever the new iPhone they're launching in September will support NTN. And I think at that point it's going to take off, because by then a bunch of these companies are going to have these crazy 5G satellites up. And both iPhones and Pixels are going to support it. And so 2027 is going to be the year of 5G networks in space. And so Starlink is doing a lot. I think AST and stuff will probably be the same. I just happen to have been reading about Starlink. The new cellular antennas they're putting on are phased arrays that are 5 times larger than the ones they have now. So they can do 16 or more beams down at the same time, right? So instead of the phased arrays that they're putting on the dishes on your roof, it's digitally adjusting which way it's pointed to track the satellite as it goes across the sky. But the ones that they're putting on the satellite are even more powerful. They're doing different beams in each direction at the same time on the same antenna.
And then whoever responds first.
And so the responses come in on the different beams. And so when they combine the signal different ways to get out the different directions.
Oh.
So at the same time, the same antenna can be listening in 2 different directions. And you just do these different mathematical operations on it, and you get out the 2 signals from the 2 directions.
Very cool.
It is very cool. So more or less, the new Starlinks are going to have 20 times the bandwidth. Right? The 5G NTN, they're going to have 20 times the bandwidth. So they're saying it'll actually be possible to make a FaceTime call from, mountaintops in the middle of the wilderness. You will be able to get enough bandwidth, on the top of Mount Everest, which one might say ruins it. Did we really need a video call from the top of Mount Everest? But going back to Brian's comment, he thinks it probably uses 90 times as much power as talking to a Wi-Fi in your house. And I haven't seen that stat, but holy cow, does it make sense? The Wi-Fi thing is 30 feet that way, and the other one is 300 kilometers up. I bet it's a lot of power per bit. I bet that thing drains batteries. So even if it's included in your plan, you might want to say, woohoo, don't use that too much, Speedify, thank you. We'll save that for emergencies. All right. So one question we get is, how does Speedify know to give up on the connection, right? So for some reason your Starlink is failing or whatever. How does it know to kick over?
Oh, it's a combination of regular old statistics that we see when connections are failing, like latency spikes or loss. And also for Starlinks in particular, they can tell us that they're in trouble, that the dish is overheating, or that it's toppled over, fully obstructed, or that the hardware you're using to connect to it is slower than what it can provide, or that it's about to go to sleep, or whatever.
Yeah. So I woke up early this morning and went through all the error codes on the Starlink and found a couple more that we weren't taking into account. So next version will be even better about when the Starlink starts complaining that it doesn't think it's doing a good job. The dish will actually switch itself to backup mode. Right? So there are a bunch of error codes where it can just straight up tell you, I'm doing a terrible job. I'm having real trouble here. And so a bunch more of them will just automatic, if you leave the priority automatic, the Starlink dish, when it's doing well, will be primary, use it all you want. But if the dish starts reporting errors and stuff, we will move it to backup. So if you have any other connections to keep you online, we'll use them instead. So that should be fun. There's lots of, we're not done here, right? There's lots of cool stuff coming. All right. Another thing, government or something I didn't think through. So we thought through every Starlink dish has the same IP address. 192.168.100.1. And so you can use that IP address to connect, talk to the API, and get all the stats that they have in the Starlink app. But every dish has the same IP. So if you have two dishes, normally you can only talk to one. Like the Starlink app can only talk to one. You can only use one at a time. So Speedify, we fixed that, right? We specifically bind to each one so we can talk to all of them at once. So if you have three dishes, Speedify will see and say Starlink on each one. When you click on them in Speedify, you'll get the stats for that dish. What I missed, I thought through that people might have three Ethernets that are going to three Starlinks. I didn't think through that people might have three Ethernets and run two of them to the same Starlink and one to another. M times N. So we end up complaining to you in the current version, if you do that two of your Starlinks are pointed the exact same direction and shouldn't you move them? So next version of Speedify, we figure that out. We'll sort out that these two are going to the same, and all the graphs and cards and stuff will reflect that. Yeah. So it's like this card here where Starlink stats, and it says the name which stats it is, Wi-Fi, because it's a Wi-Fi up here that's connected to Starlink. This is actually a comma separated list in the next version, where if you have 5 different connections connecting to the same Starlink, this will say Starlink stats, Wi-Fi, comma, Ethernet, comma, whatever, so you realize what's going on. Boy, you guys have some complicated network topologies out there, but we're getting there. We're getting there. Anybody have any other questions? Kind of quiet. Oh, we answered that already, right? Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, Starlink is so good in so many ways, right? You get hundreds of megabits in spots where you had no internet before, but you start trying to live stream or do video calls, that, less than 1% unreliable turns out to be a lot as soon as there's an audience, right? I should talk more about Speedify and routers. So, sure, Speedify and routers. You can put Speedify on OpenWRT routers. There are lots of them. There's 2 brands we spend our time on, for the most part. There's GLINet, who make these nice little travel routers. And they come with OpenWRT, and you can install Speedify on them. And then you can, tether a cell phone and combine the Wi-Fi with Ethernet. So they make cute little routers, and it works nice on them. And they're quite inexpensive for the most part. Other company we work with a lot, God bless these guys, Miri. They make a professional router, right? Solid aluminum case, 5G modem with 4x4 MIMO, a 4G modem with 2x2, a 2.4 and 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi. Plus, you can tether 4G, 5G cell phones, Ethernet cards off the 2 USB ports on the front, the USB 3, 3.1, whatever. Touchscreen on the front. Hot swappable batteries. This is probably hard to tell. Oh, there you go. Black on black. You can just pop a battery into this and power it. And when that battery gets low, you can put a fresh charge battery in the other side and then pull this battery out. And you can swap batteries all day for Ethernet. I mean, this thing is, professional news crews, videographers. Mr. Beast, right? Mr. Beast uses these for challenging shots. Kai Cenat, when he blew up his house, that was all through one of these bad boys. They had, Starlinks connected, the cellular modems, cell phones hanging off it, because they could not take a second shot. The internet could not go down because they were literally blowing up a house. And on a live stream, so it could not go out. We didn't drop a packet. There were no packets dropped during their stream. It was funny because I was watching at home and I'm so stressed. Like, what if we mess this up? Every time the music stopped, I'd be like, oh my God, did we mess up the audio? But no, Kai was literally stopping the music and making jokes. Created a great deal of stress for poor Alex. But so Speedify routers, the whole user interface is available through the web interface on your router, right? So Speedify gets embedded in the Lucy web admin. And so you can do everything in Speedify in your web browser. And if you make that available remotely, if you set up your OpenWRT router so you can connect to it from elsewhere, that means you're connecting to Speedify from elsewhere. That means you're connecting to your Starlink from elsewhere, if you happen to have a Starlink. So you can get all these stats and stuff on your Starlink from somewhere completely different. Just one cool little thing I enjoy.
Just saying.
But yeah, so we had to do a lot of work to make it work right on the routers. It turns out that bonding on a router is
different,
really different than bonding on a computer. So one of the ways it's different is that when you're bonding on the computer, you are the computer's internet connection. You can actually tell the apps running on the computer, by the way, I can take very large packets. And essentially almost every app will just adjust to that and be like, oh, you accept 16 kilobyte packets where everyone else takes 1,400, and if they're transferring a file, they'll just give you giant packets. They'll accept giant packets, and it's fixed.
Yeah.
But when you're running on a router, the Wi-Fi is their internet, and the Wi-Fi tells them to send 1,400 byte packets. And even though we're sitting here saying, no, we can take jumbo frames, we're running on a different computer. We're running on the router, and we have no way to pass that message back.
So segmentation is a challenging. It takes a lot of work to dedicate all that memory and time to splitting up packets into small little logical units.
So I think we finally solved it with what we call the PEP, the Performance Enhancing Proxy, running on the server. Some other companies have vaguely similar features that they call TCP acceleration. Depends which side they came from. The people from the satellite industry call them performance enhancing proxies. I think there are people who came the other way from the video industry that call them TCP accelerators. Same thing. We're not the first people to solve some of these bits of smart networking software on a router. But it took a real huge overhaul. And so there's some really different things going on the router. So when people ask, why is the licensing different? That is the answer. It is a lot more software running on the router, doing some very sophisticated things.
Yeah. So the PEP does more than just help with segmentation. You do get some of those benefits. You get to read from an interface that supports large packets, but you also get to get the benefit of people thinking that they're talking to a really low latency interface.
Yeah. So we take over, right, on the router when you're running the PEP. We take your data out of your TCP connections, and we send them using the Speedify protocol to the other end, not TCP over the link. And we create a new TCP connection on the other side, which means that we can do whatever we need to in the middle. We're not stuck, TCPs, acknowledgements, and cubic, and all that stuff.
Complicated
stuff. But we are able to come up with even more complicated stuff and use it to accelerate your internet, and then back on the server, just turn it back into regular TCP, so nobody has to see the weird stuff we do, but they benefit from the speeds. So that is another fun toy. Lots of companies, honestly, that are going through satellites do similar tricks because it is so weird going through satellites. That's not what the internet protocols were made for. So you switch to your own proprietary protocol. All right. I think we're probably good. We're here at 10:57. Does anyone else has any other questions? All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Will. I know you're super busy. But I will see all of you guys online. Also, same time next week, Wednesday, 10 a.m. Eastern, whatever it is. Whatever 57 minutes ago was your time zone. That's when we'll be back next week. It will be good. And congratulations to everybody who's graduating. I know there are a lot of people graduating college like this weekend. So congrats. Good luck out there. And yeah, that's it. Any last words, Will?
Happy Wednesday, everyone.
Happy Wednesday indeed. All right. Oh, if I'm interested in Speedify's service in near future, do you have a support contact?
Support@speedify.com.
Support@speedify.com indeed.
Send us your questions.
Send us
We
your
have
questions.
a good support team, and if your questions demand engineering attention, I'm there.
Don't escalate all the way up to Will.
And Kevin and the rest of the team, who you know, Mike.
Yeah. Not to me. They're smarter people.
I don't know.
All right. Thanks, everybody. See you all online.